Welcome to the news episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adeep Mahmood, with my normal co-host, Hunter. And today we're going to be talking some college football, and then we're going to be talking about the NFL playoffs. So let's first start with the college football games from the last couple of days. For Notre Dame, my first takeaway, let's talk about the Penn State-Notre Dame game first. For me, Notre Dame, I think they definitely had a night. They made adjustments in that second half. Great house to receiver, had a good game, 7 for 105 with a TD. Nick Singleton from Penn State had a strong game. I don't quite understand Drew Aller's thinking on that one. He should if he was going to throw it away, you don't throw it away in the middle of the field and expect it to dirt the ball. What were your thoughts on the game in general?
Yeah. I thought Penn State had control of it for a while, and then their offense was kind of a bit too stagnant. The rest of the game, Notre Dame's defense was very good. Drew Aller, you just can't make that mistake in that moment. But this also goes to show, excuse me, Matt, it's right that he needs another year, because if he's able to work out some of those kinks, he will have the ability to potentially go high in next year's quarterback draft, next year's draft in general, which is better for quarterbacks, because outside of Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward this year, there's really not too many good quarterbacks. And honestly, Indeed, I'm not even sure that these two quarterbacks are franchise.
Yeah, Carson Beck transferred to Miami. He was a guy that people thought could have been at least a day 2 pick.
Yeah. And they were NFL evaluators. I kept seeing on the insiders page that they were wanting Drew Aller to declare for this year's draft. And I'm like, I don't think that would be a good idea considering what I just watched. He had a good season, but if that's the last game that evaluators get to watch before he declares for the draft, if he changes his mind, that's just not good enough. I think his stock would be a lot lower compared to next year, where, again, he already said he's coming back, and he would be foolish to kind of go back on that. So it's right that he's coming back next year. I'm not really going to blame this too much on James Franklin, because his players, they just made a mistake at the end of the game. The defense did all they could. Abdul Carter played his tail off. He's going to be a top 5 pick in this year's draft.
Top 15, top 10 at least.
Yeah, at least top 10. You'll have to see how the rest of the board shakes out, with the 2 quarterbacks, Travis Hunter, all that stuff. But he should go in the top 10 at least, Indeed. He's insane with the way he plays. He gave it his all, but in the end, Notre Dame was able to make just enough plays at the end of that game to squeak by Penn State. And, they deserve it. They've had one heck of a season. They've beaten some really good teams. The biggest challenge, though, is coming up on January 20th, where they have to play Ohio State, and that is a red-hot Ohio State team right now.
Yeah, they're definitely peaking at the right moment. I don't think you can win and this is also Captain Obvious here. I don't think you can win a college football playoff game without completing a pass to a wide receiver. I don't think Greg Roman. Yeah.
No, their offense was too stagnant at the end of the game. They had a chance to go down the field and win it in the final couple of minutes, but Notre Dame wasn't getting it.
If Warren or one of the running backs wasn't getting it, they weren't moving the ball down the field. And I know some people were talking about McElroy and the other announcer, at the end of the game, when they were talking about Notre Dame should not score right away. And I get the argument, right? Less than 30 seconds left in the game. What's going to happen? Is Notre Dame, is Penn State going to have a Hail Mary in 4-10 seconds? No, is it likely? No, you may have a 2% chance of happening. But guess what? If you run down the clock and you wait until the last possible moment to kick at the very least a field goal, guess what? Penn State has a 0% chance of winning. Yep. Would you rather have a 98% chance of winning or a 100% chance of winning?
Well, I think it was James Franklin that called that timeout for the field goal at the end. So yeah. It wasn't Notre Dame that called it. It was Franklin, because he wanted the extra 10 seconds. If they didn't have any timeouts left, I would agree with you. I think that would be dumb. But it wasn't Freeman that called that. It was Franklin, because he wanted that 2% chance.
And also, I don't know why. I don't know if it's Brian Kelly being gone. I just feel like Notre Dame is more likable with Freeman. I don't see they're not the douchiness of Notre Dame is kind of gone now. So, but with Ohio State, I think what it comes down to is Texas got way too cute on that. Well, there's a couple plays like that series of events where Texas goes down the field, Blue gets the touchdown with like 30 seconds left in the first half, and then Henderson has that, like, there's busted coverage and Henderson gets that 75-yard touchdown. That was a crusher. But also, here's the other issue, though. Texas had a chance to win. You run a sweep play when it's 2nd and goal. When, by the way, there are 2 penalties.
Arthur Smith was loving that call.
Yeah, and that was the first one. That was the first issue, and then the second issue. And Jack Sawyer, great fumble, great play trying to getting the fumble, and then getting the touchdown fumble off his old roommate. I think that to me was the main difference between the two teams. The fact that Texas was way too cute and made a turnover, and Ohio State took full advantage of it. But I mean, other than that, it was very clear. The Ohio State-Texas game was very much more. That was Ohio State had that in hand. But was there anything else in that game that stood out?
No, just really dumb call. Like, why did Sark want to make it more complicated than it needed to be? Sarkisian did not need to call a toss there. If you want to run the ball, that's fine. Just run it up the gut. Run a little stretch play. You don't need to do a toss play. The amount of times that I've seen a toss play run this year, it's not even just the Steelers. I hate when Arthur Smith calls it. But in a lot of NFL games and college football games, I just hate the play. Like, you're asking the defense to make a tackle for loss, I would say at least 70 to 80% of the time. I hate that type of call. If you want to run it again, that's fine. Just run power or run a little bit of a stretch run. But no need to run a toss there because you screwed yourself, and then Jack Sawyer makes one heck of a play.
Yeah, so let's move on.
Heading into the title game, I am going to take Ohio State.
Yeah,
I think they're a better team. I think it's going to be close, but I will take Ohio State to win this whole thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were saying that whoever won that Ohio State-Texas game was going to be the team that won the title game. But yeah, so
Ohio State, actually.
Yeah. So let's go to let's talk more about Virginia Tech. Obviously, they didn't play in college football playoffs, but they did get some transfers. We got another lineman from West Virginia, Lucas Austin. Then there's a few other guys like Jordan Bass went from Pitt to here. Christian Ellis, a nice safety, and then last night or yesterday, Donovan Green from Wake Forest to Virginia Tech. So they're crushing it right now in the transfer portal. Whoever's doing is doing a great job. What are your thoughts on their efforts so far?
Yeah, I mean, Brent Pry, he knows how to win in the transfer portal in the offseason, right? We just need to see that translate over to the field. I like getting Jordan Bass coming home. It's always nice when, I know you strike out by not getting their recruitment the first time, but that's what the portal's all about, or one of the reasons. You can bring some of these guys, some of these highly touted recruits back home, like Jordan Bass. He can be a good linebacker for you. You know, Cam Seldon, I don't think you mentioned him. They're bringing him.
We talked about it last time. We talked about it on our last show.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think we might have. Yeah, I was just saying as an overarching theme, you're bringing these highly touted recruits from the state of Virginia back home to Virginia Tech. And I think that's very important. They just got the Wake Forest wide receiver, Donovan Green, on Sunday. That is a big-time recruit as well. He has 1 year of eligibility left. I think he's going to be that Jalen Lane / Steven Gosnell replacement. He had a good year this past year, had an even better year the year before that. He's been really productive at Wake Forest. So I think that'll be a really good option to throw to for Kyron Jones. You've been really needing to remake that wide receiver room because obviously Jennings is gone. Jalen Lane's going to the NFL. Steven Gosnell, same thing. He's not coming back either. So it's always important to, remake that room. The offensive line, I like the players that are coming in. It says something to me that a lot of offensive linemen from West Virginia are following Matt Moore here. I think that goes to show how good of a coach he is and how good of a job he did at West Virginia. And I am totally fine with poaching offensive linemen from that school. They usually have a pretty good pipeline for, offensive linemen. And this program is badly needing upgrades in the trenches. I like that they're focusing on that. I still want more help along the defensive line. I still want another linebacker, but I like that they've remade the secondary. You got Koval in there, you got Cash, you got a lot of these safeties that they've brought in. They brought another corner in. That's all good. I like that. But I still want a linebacker. I still probably want another defensive lineman as well. It sounds like, according to 247, they might be getting another recruit over the next couple of days. I think it might be another wide receiver, Sparks, if I recall correctly, is what his name is. So again, you're remaking that room, and I'm happy with what he's doing. It's actually, sorry, it's Cameron Sparks. So that's who it is. So that would be nice, but still a little bit of work to be done. And we still need to figure out who the defensive coordinator is going to be.
Yeah, and I think part of it is also weight. Now it's going to be interesting if they can hire. It would be interesting given with the Penn State laws, if we get an announcement about Poindexter, but that was a bit of a pipe dream. I know people have suggested Nick Sorensen. Some people have slyly suggested Nick Sorensen, who was the 49ers defensive coordinator. I don't know if, and I know he's a Virginia Tech alum. I don't know if he's going to be I don't know if he is actually would seriously consider the opportunity. I was trying to find, there was a offensive tackle that's transferred. He didn't come from a Power 5 school. I can't remember his name, but apparently he's like Matt Moore's nephew. I think I forgot, I don't know the name, but it's going to be interesting if he follows his uncle over here. But apparently he was one of the better ones. He just wasn't in a like a Mountain West Conference type. I can't remember who it was, but that's gonna be an interesting one. Like if he comes into Virginia Tech, because obviously you got the family ties there, so that's gonna be really interesting. But I think with Penn State's loss, maybe Poindexter, they can aggressively pursue that more. I don't think Sorensen is going to be an option, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do with defensive coordinator.
This is probably his biggest hire, because this is a make or break year for him here. I think if he doesn't have the year that he wants, I don't think he's going to be the coach beyond this year.
Yeah. So let's move on to the NFL. Before we talk about the postseason, we did have coaches getting fired. Doug Peterson was fired. Antonio Pierce was fired. Gerard Mayo was fired. Obviously, the Bears are looking for a new head coach. Like, are any of these names surprising? And do you have any guesses right now on where like the Saints are going, and where these other guys like Glenn and Ben Johnson are going?
I'm gonna say, just a prediction, I'm gonna say Vrabel to the Patriots. I think that it just makes too much sense. Former player, was a really good coach with the Titans. Sounds like he interviewed well there. I think he's probably their top option. Yeah. I would be a bit surprised if they don't hire him at this juncture.
I think Glenn to Saints. I think that's the big thing. I think that's the Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, I work with a Saints fan, and I was actually asking him, like, who do you want? And he goes, I think it's going to be Aaron Glenn. So that would make a lot of sense. The Bears, I go back and forth on, because I could easily see Ben Johnson there. And there have been reports saying that he really likes that job. But don't discount the Raiders either. Ian Rappaport on Saturday said that he interviewed well on Friday, and they really like him. And I do think people need to start talking more about how much stake Tom Brady has with the franchise, Adit. It sounds to me, it sounds like he's really running this search. Like, he's competitive. He wants to win. He wants to help his team get back to contention. I think he's very, very involved in this coaching search. So I kind of go back and forth on the Raiders and Bears between Ben Johnson. I think it's going to be one of those two. Jacksonville, I think, is a total wild card. Honestly, they are interviewing a lot of people. And same with the Jets. They've interviewed like 14 people right now. They have a list of
Locksley as well. Mike Locksley is one of them, apparently.
Yeah. Rex Ryan got an interview there. I don't think Rex is going to get the job, though. I think it's going to be a coordinator, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think there's obviously the obvious ones. Like, I think Vrabel, like, because here's the thing. With Aaron Glenn, he actually declined an interview with the Patriots, which makes me think it's going to be Mike Vrabel. They're doing the old they're trying to play sly and saying it's an open process. I think it's And I don't know if this will work out well, because if you think about it, Gerard Mayo is a former player for the Patriots on the defensive side. And they fired him after a year, so it is I don't know. It's gonna be really tough there. I mean, Dable. I think Brian Dable remaining is a bit of a shocker. But again,
how did they not fire anyone in that organization for the year that they had? I don't know, man. I don't know what John Mara is doing up there in New York, but it's nothing good. I would not have kept both the front office and the head coach. But hey, that's just me.
Yeah, and apparently, honestly, wouldn't be shocked if like Quinn Ewers, if it's like Quinn Ewers is a Giant or something. Like, I don't quite get it. I don't think it'll be a good fit there. It's just the Giants are a mess. The Jets, who knows what they're doing. Honestly, here's what I would do if I was the Jets. Focus on hiring a GM and then run these interviews with the head coach and then have the GM pick the head coach, because with the Jets, they got major problems. Who's their quarterback next year? Like, that's the thing. Who's going to be their quarterback? And even if they get a good head coach, if that GM doesn't like the head coach, you still got issues. But yeah, like Aaron Glenn, I think is Saints. Vrabel is Patriots. I think Ben Johnson to the Raiders, it would be an interesting fit. That the Bears, it's very eclectic. Like, they want to interview Todd Monken. Please don't leave Baltimore. I also don't think Todd Monken. I think he's going to be very particular. Like, he's not going. Like, I know he's got an interview with Jacksonville. I don't know if he takes that job.
I probably would not, considering how weird the owner is and how he continues to keep the general manager in there, even through like multiple coach firings. I don't know what's going on.
And by the way, Balky was bounced from San Francisco.
Yep.
So, look, it's good. And then also, like, Pete Carroll apparently got an interview with the Bears.
He's interviewing with the Raiders next week too, according to Schefter.
I wouldn't sleep on that. That would be. I wouldn't sleep on that, because I think
Carroll would still be a good coach. I know he's a bit older, but he's still a good coach in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I think with Brady, look, maybe Brady respects, like, if Brady is heading up the search, like, maybe they are considering people like Carroll more than we think, because Brady is like that old school football mindset, and like he might want to be building a culture. It would be interesting. So I think that's kind of where we are there. And then we can talk Ravens Steelers now. We can talk in totality of the Wildcard Weekend. My thing is, on paper, I think the Ravens have the better roster. Here's what it comes down to. Do the Ravens get in their own way? Because I think the Ravens, if they don't get in their own way, they should be able to win this game. But all it takes is Lamar making a bad throw or bad decision, obviously with Zay Flowers out. And the Steelers could take advantage of it. But what are your thoughts on this game?
I do think on paper the Ravens have the better roster. They had the better season. Though, again, you look at the history, the Steelers have mostly dominated this rivalry these last few years. Yeah, I know. The Ravens just won the last matchup by multiple scores. But I feel like that game was still closer than that final score indicated. I think it was decided by 2 plays. It was the Russ fumble, and it was the pick six. Had Russ not fumbled there, that would have been 14-7 Steelers, and who knows what would happen the rest of that game. Russ then throws a pick six, 24-17, makes it 31-17. Game was basically over at that point. The Steelers
also missed field goals in the first one. So
yes,
both games had weird stuff going on.
Yes, I agree 100%. The Steelers were in that second game, even though they were without quite a few regulars. Deshaun Elliott did not play. George Pickens was out. TJ Watt was still pretty banged up. I don't think he's as hurt now as he was then. Ogunjobi was hurt. They were missing a lot of starters on defense. Joey Porter Jr. barely played. Now the defense is fully healthy. There's no more excuses for this unit. Mike Tomlin's defense has been really lit up in the playoffs these last few times. Buffalo lit him up last year. Kansas City before that, they got lit up by Jacksonville, Cleveland. It's a trend that needs to be broken.
Isn't it like the Steelers, like, don't they go down by like 10 plus points in the last 5 games?
It's been really bad since over the last 6 years. They have not won a playoff game in almost a decade. This is not the Chicago Bears over here. This is not what the Steelers usually do. They usually try to win a playoff game at least every single year. That has not happened since 2016. So, in order, I think, for them to win, first off, Russell Wilson needs to play so much better. He's been awful these last 4 weeks. The offense needs to get into high gear. Open up the playbook, use some more play action, run the ball between the tackles, use Jalen Warren a bit more, use Pat Freiermuth a bit more, actually use George Pickens instead of just not throwing to him sometimes. And also, of course, I do think you're going to see Justin Fields in this game. You are going to see few Justin Fields packages. I know the Ravens will know what's coming, but they're going to throw everything at them, I think. It's been really struggling these last few weeks. Fields is now healthy. I think you're going to see him for multiple series in this one. So that's the unit that still scares me the most. Defensively, though, again, they're healthy. Dante Jackson is back. Joey Porter Jr. is healthy. All the linebackers are good. Cam Hayward's having an all-pro season. I saw steps in the right direction last week from the defense. They really shut down the Bengals outside of that opening drive touchdown. They were communicating better. They were getting to Burrow. They were forcing him to be a bit uncomfortable. They were holding them to field goals. The red zone defense was good. I'm not as concerned with that side of the ball. But it's still going to be a tough challenge considering how great the Ravens offense is, what Lamar can do, and all that stuff. The Zay Flowers injury is huge. That means they can kind of focus more on Bateman, Andrews, likely. Obviously, they're going to sell out to stop Derrick Henry. They've done that the first 2 meetings. Worked well in the first one, did not in the second one. But if they can at least limit the Ravens offense, they'll have a shot. My dog is barking downstairs, probably agreeing with me, but they'll have a shot. I do think this game is going to be closer than what a lot of the talking heads are saying. If I had to make a pick, I'd probably go with the Ravens. But I do think this is going to be a classic Steelers-Ravens game indeed. It's going to be close, and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Ravens win, but I think they barely win. I think Steelers cover. I think the spread's like 8.5 right now. But yeah, no, I think I am not. The Steelers defense is still good. It's still Mike Tomlin. That was shocking because I didn't really follow the Steelers struggling that much in the postseason. I don't know. I just feel like there's some determination on Harbaugh. There's more focus, and like I said, if the Ravens can focus, and if the Ravens can not trip over themselves, I think that they can win. I think this will be a closer game. And look, we're you know what happens when the Ravens and Steelers play. And by the way, I want to give it and also just in case people don't know, the Ravens, just give a shout out to Odafe Owe, double-digit sacks this year. A lot of people kind of looked at him as kind of like he's a bit of a project. Him and Van Noy both have double-digit sacks this year. So I know everyone talked about the Ravens' pass defense being improved. Odafe Owe has been good for them this year, and let's see what happens. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Odafe Owe because I know a lot of people have kind of disrespected him and looked at him as a project. Getting to 10 sacks is an accomplishment. And also, I know we didn't talk. This was from last week's game. What was your reaction to the Michael Pierce? Because I thought that was one of the funniest. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Which one are you talking about?
The interception in the game last week.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was watching. Yeah, that was good. Okay, sorry, I didn't know which play you were talking about for a second, but yes, that was good.
No, but that was hilarious because one, he dropped if you saw the play, he dropped back in coverage. Like this wasn't a tipped ball. Like he dropped back in coverage, and honestly, there was probably one guy in front of him. But that being said, Michael Pierce is probably 355 pounds on a good day.
The Browns, man, like those Dorian Thompson-Robinson might be the worst quarterback I've ever seen. Ugh.
Yeah, and then also we can talk about the rest of the games. Obviously, for some reason,
Chargers, Texans.
Watson,
what'd you say?
Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles again.
Don't know if he plays another down for the Browns, if not in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to play at all next season, if I'm being fully honest. And They have the number 2 pick a D, so Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, come on down, maybe?
Well, I mean, we can briefly talk about the draft order. I mean, I think that's what got May fired. Patriots went from 1 to 4.
I think it was partly that, but also like there's a lot of like rumors and reports coming out of that locker room that he just didn't have it together. So I think they just want a more experienced coach.
Titans are interesting though. Titans at 1 is interesting. Like, do they move on from Will Levis?
I don't think he's ever going to be the guy, so I would.
But yeah, I mean, yes, I mean that isn't, and also I think there's that weird thing of like Drew Aller is like from Ohio. He's a Browns fan, so maybe if he declared, like he would declare if the Browns would take him. But yeah, no, I think that the rest of the games, I mean the rest of the games. What are your thoughts on the rest of the games?
Texans Chargers is the first one today. There is no NFL playoffs without the Texans playing at 4:30 the first game of Wildcard Weekend. It is not the NFL playoffs without that. I'm going to take the Chargers by a field goal in this one. I think they're the better team, but I still think Houston will put up a fight. CJ Stroud is still a very good quarterback. It's just their injuries at wide receiver scare me, man. And they've been struggling a bit down the stretch here. I will take the Chargers to win that. Denver versus Buffalo. Denver's going to give them a game. I really like Denver's defense. Bo Nix had a really nice run to end the season. Sean Payton has done a really nice job with him. In the end, though, I'm going to take Buffalo. Having to by 7-10, maybe a little bit more, but I'm going to take Buffalo to win that game. I think they're the better team. Josh Allen's been an alien this year. I will take the Bills. Denver's time is coming, but it's not yet. Eagles, Packers, I'm going to take the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is coming back fully healthy. Jordan Love has been a bit banged up. I like the Packers, but they just had a big injury. I believe Christian Watson is out for that game. Yeah, that's a huge injury. So I'm going to take the Eagles, especially with Saquon Barkley fully healthy. Commanders, Bucks. I go back and forth on this one. I really think this is a coin flip. I'm taking
Bucks barely.
I might take the Bucks by 1, but I can easily see the Commanders winning this if Jaden Daniels balls out because he's balled out all year. But I think if Baker has a good game, I think it's going to be just enough for the Bucks to win this game at home. And then finally, the Rams game. First off, Adi, I know I can speak for you this as well. Our thoughts go out to everyone in the Los Angeles area dealing with these awful wildfires. The game is going to be played in Glendale, Arizona.
And good on the Cardinals for bringing in the 2 planes to bring the teams over there.
Yeah. I saw that. I will take the Vikings by a score. I like the Rams. I like the way they're playing here. I will take the Vikings, though, with the way they played and the level that Sam Darnold is showing. I don't think the Vikings are going to have their season ended this weekend. I don't think I missed any of the games. I think I got all of them.
You got all the games.
Yeah. What are your picks?
I'm kind of rooting for the Vikings to win this game because what I want to see, and this would be really cool, a Vikings-Ravens Super Bowl in New Orleans.
That would be kind of funny.
Because it's like both are purple teams and that's like all purple. I mean, I can't disagree with you. I mean, my picks. I mean, Chargers. I think Chargers take out Houston especially because the Ravens took out Houston. Greg Roman might use some tricks that the Ravens use, and the Ravens had such a dominating win over Houston that I think the Chargers can overcome. I think the Chargers will. I think the Chargers are also healthier, so I got the Chargers taking out Houston. As funny as it would be to see Denver take out Buffalo, because all these Buffalo Bills fans.
Oh, you guys got a little rivalry going here. And hey, if the Ravens win today and the Bills win, you guys might eat each other for the next week.
It's more on the Bills side of things because it's like it's just like I don't care about the MVP thing. Both Lamar and Josh Allen were overlooked for multiple reasons coming into the draft, and they might be 2 of the better quarterbacks in that draft class. Look, at the end of the day, for the next 5-10 years, Josh Allen and Lamar will be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in like that whole thing of Brady, Manning, Rivers, Roethlisberger. Like, they're going to be in that group. Get over it. Guess what? You know what's really great about the NFL? We can have multiple good quarterbacks. What a foreign concept. It's like, and also, like, I don't quite get Bill saying the Ravens have all these all-pros, and Josh Allen has none. I'm like, are you crapping on your team to prop up Josh Allen? I get that he might have an MVP bonus, but are you really crapping on your team just to make one guy look good? This is just one of the dumbest things in the world. So it is funny. It would be funny if the Bills lose, but I think the Bills win on that one. And then if the Packers were healthy, then I could see them giving Philly a fight. I think Philly wins, and I think the Packers start their year beating, even though they started the year against Philly in Brazil, they're going to end the year against Philly. I think Philly wins that one. And like I said, I think the Buccaneers beat Washington, and I think the Vikings beat the Rams. I just think there's something with this Vikings team that they are ready to take the next step, at least to move forward. And also, it's going to be really interesting to see what with Sam Darnold and what he does in his future, and if JJ McCarthy moves, if JJ McCarthy gets traded, which I think is probably the dumbest idea in the world, because honestly, I would rather have JJ McCarthy than Daniel Jones. So as a backup. So just one last thing, MLB free agency, not much happened. So the Orioles went out, brought in Charlie Morton, 1 year, $15 million. Yes, he's 41 years old, but guess what? He knows how to pitch. He's been better as he's aged. He's not the guy that he was with Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's been on winning teams: Houston, Tampa Bay, Atlanta. Nice veteran presence. All right, then who else? Oh yeah, they went out and then brought in Andrew Kittredge, reliever. He was with the Cardinals. Really good. Kind of looks like a drunk, like Hunter. When you watch him pitch, he does kind of look like a drunk uncle. Like the way he kind of swings back and forth, but he's been really solid. Good with the Rays, good with the Cardinals. And then the Blue Jays went out and signed they signed Jeff Hoffman to a 3-year, $33 million deal. But something interesting happened later on, where apparently Jeff Hoffman had a 3-year, $40 million deal agreement with the Orioles. But apparently there was an issue with the physical with the right shoulder, so they took that offer out. My guess is they were looking at Hoffman to be a starter, but obviously, if you're a right-handed pitcher and you have concerns about a shoulder, and this is a guy who's been relieving for the last couple of years, you probably don't want him ramping up his innings and him being a starter next year. But it was definitely interesting to see that they were willing to go up to $40 million. So my guess, it was really annoying because the Kittredge signing, it was announced at like 12 midnight. It was like announced 12 midnight. It was not like in the evening. But now this makes sense because they probably had the agreement with Hoffman, saw the issue with the physical, didn't like it. They kept it silent, went out, got Kittredge instead, and we'll see what happens there. But arbitration numbers were there. It was really weird seeing Kyle Tucker, who was just traded to the Cubs. The Cubs are apparently $2.5 million. There's a difference of $2.5 million between what Kyle Tucker feels like he's worth and the Cubs. I think it's a little weird that the Cubs aren't willing to pay him that much money. Pay him that at least 1.25, whatever it was. The Red Sox, explain this to me. You are willing to throw $700 million. You're willing to throw money at Juan Soto, but yet you're not willing to pay Jaron Duran an extra $500,000 when you haven't done much this offseason. I don't get it. But that's just the update on MLB free agency. Has Nationals made any moves?
Yeah, they signed Josh Bell to another deal. They brought him back, so he'll be the DH for this season. They also signed Ahmed Rosario, so he'll be kind of like that utility player for the Nats. He can play a couple different positions. Can be in the starting lineup, can be in the bench, so that's totally fine. I still think they need, in my opinion, another big bat and maybe another reliever or two for the bullpen, though. But that's just me.
Yeah, and also I think the reliever market is going to be increasing now with the signings, like we've mentioned. Tanner Scott's still available. AJ Minter is still available. It'll be really interesting if Finnegan is still available. If the Nationals go back and bring back Finnegan. I'm a little shocked. I'll be honest. I'm a little surprised that he's been available this long. And honestly, I don't think he's asking for too much. Like, I think you could probably get him on like a 1 year, $10 to $12 million deal at this point. And I think he's like, you've probably seen him more. I think he's worth like 1 year, $10 million based on, or like a 2 year, 24. Like, would you pay him 2 years, 20 to 24 million if that's what he was asking?
I mean, Finnegan has been one of the better closers in baseball these last couple of years. I mean, 2 years, 20. I would probably do it. I think especially if the right situation comes around, yes, I would.
Yep. And also Roki Sasaki will sign somewhere between the January 15th and January 23rd. So obviously Dodgers seem to be the favorites for him. Interesting thing, Padres are also the favorite. Padres could be the favorites. He's probably going to a West Coast team. Speaking of the Padres, I don't know if you've read this story. So apparently Peter Seidler's widow, she is suing Peter Seidler's brothers.
I did not read that. No.
But apparently they're owning apparently she is suing them because she thinks that they're doing a poor job of owning the team. It's like a very succession. It's like a weird thing. So now I don't know who's owning the Padres, and that's really interesting because now does that mean the Padres can't spend a ton of money? Like, are they going to dump Dylan Cease because the guy, like, I know they agreed on a $13.75 million deal, but he's a free agent after this year.
Yeah,
are you going to pay him? Michael King's a free agent. Like, look, you're not gonna trade Machado. You're not gonna trade Tatis. Arias is going to be a free agent soon. It's just like that is such a weird situation going on there. And then I don't think there's anything other in baseball to bring up. But we'll be back next week. We'll talk about the Wildcard week. We'll recap the Wildcard Weekend, and we'll talk about the divisional playoffs. Obviously, if there's any moves in free agency, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yep, we'll see y'all next week.